To achieve this is ridiculous. This is one of the most developed worlds I've ever seen in a movie. This is up there with Brazil in terms of like making me believe I'm somewhere that
doesn't exist.
To dream up this thing. I mean, it's based on a book, we should say, so it's like not completely his invention, but the art style of this.
Yeah, is totally. Yeah.
The art direction, the production design, and his production design are made, but like, and the costuming and all this stuff. This is one of the most amazing looking movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Period.
I agree.
End of story. It is stunning.
And
it's
then
fucking
coupled with
fantastic.
how it is shot.
Yeah, and how it's
in addition to
of course it's shot
insanely
with like the craziest shit ever.
Yeah.
And the lens choice that's used and the editing of how they're cut together, it's brilliant. I'm lost for words at this movie.
Yeah.
I was like, from the first 5 minutes, I was like, this is like right up my alley. I love shit like this. This like fantasy world of like, but set in a serious tone with so much depth in it is like, I think it's one of the reasons I love Guillermo del Toro so much, but something like Pan's Labyrinth, which I hold as like one of the best, if not the best fantasy movie I've ever seen, using like a fairy tale to communicate really sincere things. And this has done this like near perfectly for me. I love this.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I'm with you. A really inventive approach to it too. Like in recent history, there's people use, rather than green screen, LED panels.
Yep.
And there's some incorporation of that.
Yep.
With a lot of the skies.
Yep. Most of the exteriors and interiors, like 90% of them of the film, were built in a giant soundstage.
Yeah.
Apart from the dance sequence, that hall.
Yeah.
That's on location. But Lisbon is actually in a soundstage. I'll put photos up, but it's actually in a soundstage, built the whole thing. It's crazy.
It's unreal. Yeah.
The prop designer says it's something like a theme park or something like that. Like they built like a theme park that you could just walk through. He's like, when Emma Stone's walking through Lisbon, she's just walking through the set.
Yeah.
That's it.
And if you want to talk about being an actor on the set.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like in terms of, okay, let's mentally put myself into the scene.
Sure.
You're not poor old Ian McKellen on the set of The Hobbit trying to act to a tennis ball
Yeah, right.
and breaking down on set saying this is not what I made movies for.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, they're looking at these LED skies. The skies are beautiful, by the way.
Yeah,
it looks like swirling paint.
Yeah.
And it just plays into the insanity of the film.
Yeah.
Like
Yorgos said he wanted to, and it was like a collective decision that he told the production team, that the idea was that the film was from Bella Baxter's point of view.
Yeah.
So that's why it looks like that, reflecting like a child's view of the world and how everything is this way and that way. And of course it moves to color, which is something that everybody seems to have obviously pointed out, thinking that it's like, that's not obvious.
It's actually the first film ever to use black and white.
And then move to color to show an enlightenment of a character.
Unreal.
The funny thing about it though is he sprung it on the production team apparently on set. Like they did the whole thing. He's like, yeah, the first 30 minutes is black and white, and they were like,
that production designer's like,
it's okay. We go into color later, so we still see all the color.
in the same setting as well. In God's house.
But it would have just been a funny thing to be like, okay, but black and white film stock for this bit. It's like, okay.
That's crazy.
So, according to some production designers, Yorgos sent them a Hieronymus Bosch painting, who, if you don't know, amazing artist, one of the most famous surrealists, and there's a few triptychs by him that are super famous, like Garden of Earthly Delights triptych, all that sort of shit. Anyhow, he's a great, amazing painter who dreamed up all these crazy monsters and things, and apparently he sent them a painting, or what I probably think is like a snippet of a painting of some people flying on fishes, like with flying fishes and little people on top of the fishes.
Oh yeah, they literally do that.
And there's a transitional scene
when they show the chapter.
Yeah, where Bella's on the fish heading to, I think it's for the Lisbon.
Yeah.
Like that's straight, just borrowed from Bosch.
Yeah, those transitional shots are some of the best
amazing shots,
ever put to film.
Yeah.
And I really don't feel dramatic at all saying
No, they're awesome.
They're
the slow-mo, everything, the movement of them is great. There was some...
I'm gobsmacked by this
Yeah.
I don't even know how to explain that.
I'll just point out like technical things first, and then
Yeah,
go into
cool.
like what I feel like is the film's getting at. But
Sweet.
so there was.
I got to put some words in my mouth.
That's okay. The costume designers on this film apparently said, looking back at the work that they had done, that there was this artist called Albert Rabida. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Futurist, and he drew all these amazing dresses of like women wearing dresses and cities that are definitely borrowed, and I think he said that the color palettes were borrowed from them as well. I'll put some paintings up. It reminded me of like BioShock, which I felt bad for the fact that it reminded me of BioShock after I heard a dude in a Q&A with the audience say that you're using like steampunk aesthetics to these the production designer and costume designer, and they said, ugh, we hate steampunk or whatever.
Replace some of the more specific historical context leading up to the First World War with steampunk aesthetics. Thank you very much.
What was the last?
Steampunk.
Steampunk aesthetics.
We don't like steampunk.
They didn't like that.
Can someone get rid of that guy?
And I think, but you know, I'm glad they said that, because I think it's right. It's not steampunk. It isn't. It's not like gold and rusty and whatnot. It's super colorful. And they said a lot of the colors that they picked intentionally, they were trying to pick things that like reminded them of bodily fluids, and that all of the colors were supposed to be like sort of a bit grotesque.
We took a lot of inspiration for the color from anatomical drawings and bodily fluids. The yucky ones and the beautiful ones, sort of pinks and saturated reds and lilac sort of tripe colours. We always tried to relate it to something a bit revolting.
And it's true, like the really intense reds or like a sort of like sickly yellow, and those colours are also present in Rabida's paintings.
Yeah.
And they're sort of like white, and then he'll use a pretty bold colour here and there. And they've obviously like expanded this. Yeah, someone said that Yorgo gave a costume designer a single reference of inflatable trousers or something, and said to go off that, which I thought was funny because Bella Baxter's not really wearing trousers or any sort of bottoms for like the majority of the movie. She's like in underwear for a lot of it. But yeah, I thought that was cool. I looked at the paintings and was like, oh, yeah, of course. Like it makes total sense as a reference. Of course they pulled from that.
I think that's one thing that's really, really impressive about this is Yorgo is, I feel like he's becoming very influential in the modern film scene.
Yeah, it's taken a minute. I can't believe this is like the first Yorgo people have seen.
Yeah, and people are kind of not catching up to Yorgo, but they're, you know, I'm seeing films with like wider lenses more often.
They are catching up to Yorgo.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah, because they're seeing it. And then Yorgo, I love and admire him because he's like, you know, obviously this is not a conscious decision. I'm sure that he doesn't care what the landscape is. Yorgo wants to make a Yorgo movie.
Yep.
But I like the idea that it's like, oh, you guys are catching up. It's like, okay, I'm going to take my visual style and I'm just going to expand it by like 300% for this poor films thing and look at all these new influences.
Yeah.
And this is like going to be almost you cannot imitate it.
Yeah. Well, he's spoken a lot about wanting, when he does these period dramas, because The Favourite obviously exists.
Yeah.
And that he wanted to use more sort of modern references or period pieces that have done a more modernistic look at period pieces. And so The Favourite is this like sort of minimalist look. All the costumes are in black and white, and they're all basic materials, and there's not much embellishment.
Strangely, the costumes don't have a great deal of detail. Due to sort of financial and time restrictions, I decided to strip all that back. And also sort of for the style of the film. So what the costumes are really, basically they're historically correct for the cut. Then, as Yorgos mentioned before, I used contemporary fabrics and stripped away all the decoration and sort of made it the bare bones.
Well, I think firstly, we wanted to look at period films that have done things differently. And one of the few that stood out was Peter Greenaway's The Draftsman's Contract. Yeah. Very stylized film, very bold. Their costumes were also made by very plain materials. I think they used mostly cotton materials, which was much plainer than what they would actually be. And they also, I think, limited the color palette quite a bit. You know, something very different was Bergman's Cries and Whispers. Also, their costumes are black and white, but of course in a very bright red room.
And like, this was the other side of everything, where it was just like, now we're going to go absolutely maximalist and do a period piece that looks nothing like any period piece. Like, the colours aren't accurate. Lisbon doesn't look like that. It's a real place. It looks nothing like that.
Yeah.
Like,
And with Lisbon, we did away with the blue. Portugal's got a lot of tiles that are blue. We changed those to green, and we
Robida.
yeah, Alberto Robida. Looking back at his work recently, it's sort of like hugely influential on the colour palette of Lisbon and stuff, right?
in doing these movies that are supposed to be like period accurate, he just has so much freedom. He feels so much freedom and like expression to just do it. And his visual taste and artistic taste and the taste of his production team is so great and so high. Everything is perfect. If somebody can tell me where I can buy Bella Baxter's sunglasses, let me know. But like every single thing that is in this film, apparently like Emma was talking about like, oh, they would walk around the set and you could open the drawers and there would be like all this weird cutlery in there that no one ever got to see. And like they detailed it to a ridiculous degree, which is just immense. I don't think there's many film sets that I would want to, because I think sometimes like, oh shit, I wish I was on that set in the 1960s just to be on the set and see how they did everything. This is one of those. It's like, I wish that this was like taken from the set, put in a theme park, and people were allowed to walk around and made an attraction. I would pay anything to be there.
To go.
Oh, it was awesome. I love it. I want to talk about practical effects.
Yeah.
Defoe's mask is fantastic.
Oh my gosh.
It's flawless. I love that there's...
Have you seen the painting that they borrowed from?
No, I haven't seen the painting.
I'm going to put a picture up here.
Yeah.
I can't believe that they took that and then made a prosthetic. It looks like it shouldn't be possible to do and have it look not natural, but believable, that if someone's, been tested on and mutilated as a child, like this might be what their face looks like.
Right.
It's unreal.
Anyway,
Yeah,
the scars on the face were so unique because it was like precise, like straight scars on some sides and crooked ones on others, and it gave this really unique look to. I've never seen a mask like that. Yeah, it was brilliant.
They like extended his chin.
Yeah.
On one side.
Yeah. He's completely expert. It was brilliant. Apparently Defoe loved performing in it too. He was like, thought it was really great to wear it. Bella's brain surgery scene and the brain surgery scene. This is spoilers. The brain at the end where they turn the dude into a goat. When they take the skull off and you see it looks fantastic. It's so believable and like gross and awesome. It looks fucking great. I love when we get into that studio and there's that just pig hanging from the wall up the back, and it's just like. Because you see all these animals and they're super fun, like the pig with the wings and the duck dog and all that sort of stuff. It's like, this is great, fun stuff. And then you get in there and there's a pig hanging and it's like, it's grotesque is what it is. Yeah. But it's awesome. I love it. And the fact that Bella's hair keeps growing throughout the film is just awesome. Just love that as a detail. It's like, of course, well, she's not cutting her hair, right? Yeah. She's been away for a while and it would grow faster because she's developing faster or something like that. It like links up. It's just nice and a great detail.
It's cool. It really informs the fact that she's just wild. She's like a massive, probably the central like motor for her character is that the film seems to be a look into what someone would be like if they were unconcerned with society's perception.
Has no shame. She's free of shame.
She has a very organic, unfiltered way of learning about how things work. And, if she's growing her hair out and, walking a certain way and talking a certain way, it's all, it's all indicative of that. Yeah. And it's perfect. And people can look at her and know after 2 seconds that this is like a different person. Yeah. Which is wild because it's, everyone kind of seems, you realize that everyone kind of talks the same to a degree, and then you hear Bella Baxter and you're like, wow, I wonder what the circumstances are for you to like sound like this. Like, this is really interesting.
Yeah. And they would still know, and the other thing that's interesting to think about the fact that this is Bella's point of view. So like, what's she really wearing when she's going outside, and how are people treating her because of that, and that sort of a thing. In her view, everything looks fantastical, and so she views everybody as sort of like, she's completely non-judgmental of anybody. But if they viewed her, she's outside not wearing any pants, they might be treating her a certain way or avoiding her a certain way, and she does speak completely differently.